is Andreas Antonopoulos at the Latin America Bitcoin Conference here in Argentina in Buenos Aires. And with me today I have Alan Safahi of ZipZap. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So ZipZap is one of the companies that helped me get my first Bitcoin in collaboration with BitInstant, and I am forever grateful to you for that. Certainly spurred a whole industry for helping people with a minimal level of hassle to get cash directly into Bitcoin.
Thank you so much for that endorsement.
It is the truth. And tell me a bit about the history of ZipZap. How did you decide to get involved in Bitcoin? What is your background and what is the history behind ZipZap?
My personal background is prepaid card processing. I was involved with issuing prepaid Visa and MasterCard products, and we got involved with ZipZap and cash payment because we were getting customers from around the world trying to buy prepaid cards from us, and we of course couldn't sell to them because of different franchise rules that the networks have. So I started digging into it and found out that people wanted to buy prepaid cards so they can shop online at the merchants in the U.S. They didn't have credit cards, or if they had it, they couldn't use them due to restrictions and fraud controls and so forth. So that's how originally I got involved in the cash payment network, because I thought that's the easiest way for customers to shop online. They can just pay cash locally. But of course, it turned out that it was harder to convince the merchants that they should serve these customers that they haven't served. And even though we had a few merchants that were very interested, it became a challenge because they didn't have resources to implement our solution, and they didn't have logistics in place to ship to some of the countries that we were trying to serve. So in the process of doing all of this, I learned about Bitcoin and found out that this is an area that's underserved, that they need liquidity. They need, for a currency to survive and thrive, you have to have cash in and cash out locations. So I decided to pivot and focus on providing supports for exchanges like BitInstant and others.
And when did this happen?
That was like June of 2011, I believe. So 2000.
Oh, wow.
Actually, 2012, June of 2012, I think that's when we started our first transaction with them.
Okay, great. And since then, ZipZap has been a very important player in the cash in, cash out aspect of Bitcoin. Now, I know one of your main partners, at least in the U.S., through which I was introduced to ZipZap, was BitInstant. Right. But you have other partnerships around the world? Yes,
we have a partnership that's going to be going live soon with Kraken in Europe. We have partnership with CoinX, CamBX in the U.S. We have partners in Asia that are integrating with us, Singapore, Hong Kong, a few even in Latin America, 2 in Canada. So we're expanding globally. Pretty much most of the exchanges, with the notable exception of Coinbase and Mt. Gox, we have everybody. Bitstamp is a client as well. Mm-hmm. So
that's very good. Where do you see the future of this industry going now that Bitcoin is gradually reaching a level of awareness that we hadn't had before? I wouldn't call it mainstream anywhere near yet, but certainly the demand has spiked. And for a lot of people, it is very difficult to buy Bitcoin. It's very difficult to set up exchange accounts and do all of the KYC, AML stuff. So cash is obviously a very popular alternative. Where do you see the hotspots for this development? Yeah, so I think the best use case for Bitcoin is remittance. We are focused on remittance right now. We think microtransactions and e-commerce could come down the road, become very important. But right now I'm focused on building the cash in and the cash out solution. And in the middle, we use Bitcoin for transferring the money between different exchanges. We also did the same thing in partnership with Ripple to use the Ripple gateways for that. So I think in terms of where the industry is going, the attention that the Bitcoin is getting from the rising price, although it's not good for it as a currency, it does serve a purpose of educating the public. You see more and more people getting involved in understanding Bitcoin, learning, buying it, getting involved in it, and you see more investment money coming into it, which would then hopefully down the road create better solutions, easier ways to partner
with wallets and exchanges. So it's all good. I think long term, I would like to see the prices stabilize, and I think maybe there's a lot of speculation built into the price, but if people often ask me, should I buy Bitcoin at this price or that price? And I say, if you take the value of what PayPal is doing, or what MoneyGram or Western Union is doing, or what Visa, MasterCard is doing, and you convert that to 11 million Bitcoins that are out there, a Bitcoin could be worth $100,000 or $1 million. If you look at the upside potential, the replacement of those giants. So that's the market we're in. It's a market that has trillions of dollars of upside potential. In a course of a day, there's $5 trillion worth of currency exchanges that happen every day. So can Bitcoin play a small part of that? Because today, Bitcoin is only about $200 million a day. So there's a lot of upside potential. But if somebody gets into the Bitcoin and buys it, they should look at it for long term. And not speculate that it's going to get to that 10,000 or 100,000 by the next week or by this Christmas. It's not going to happen.
No, most important advice there is do not panic.
Do not panic. Yeah,
there's
exactly.
There's a lot of volatility, but if you just hold on there, there's a lot of opportunity.
You should become a value investor. You invest in Bitcoin. I like what Eric Voorhees said, which is there is a Bitcoin with a capital B, which is the currency, and there's a Bitcoin with a small b, which is the platform. And I say invest in a platform. That's the real sustainable value of Bitcoin. The currency is good, but the Bitcoin capital, Bitcoin is good. It's needed, but the reason you should buy the currency is because you believe in the power of the Bitcoin as a platform, as what it could do for humanity, which is subject of my presentation here in Argentina.
So remittances is the focus of your business right now. Of the entire international financial market, there are certainly many flows with many billions and trillions of dollars going around. Why remittances?
It's the biggest pain point. First of all, I'm an immigrant myself to the U.S. from Iran. I see the trouble that the foreigners have to go through in any westernized world to send money back home. We saw in the UK, thousands of MSPs lost their bank relationship, and because of that, they couldn't service their clients who wanted to send money back home to like Ethiopia. And so as a result, the Ethiopian guy who's receiving money from his family in the UK, maybe he couldn't eat that week. So we can make an immediate impact by doing the remittance right, and Bitcoin allows us to do that. The fees are being charged that are very, very high. Here in Argentina, I heard that you can pay up to 50%, to send money across the water to Uruguay. So some of that it has to do with the monetary policies here, but the remittance fees are still very high. On the average with Western Union or MoneyGram, you're paying up to about the average of 9%, but in some countries, the poorer the countries, the higher the fees. So you can pay up to 25%. Average to send money to some poor countries. So I thought that's not right. We could do a lot better as humanity can do a lot better. We don't need to be enriching our pockets and getting 7 to 10% quarterly profits when people can afford at the backs of those people in third world countries that can't afford it. And the other thing is, I look at, we're giving money away in foreign aid to these countries, to the top of the governments, and hoping that it would trickle down to the bottom of the economy. But at the same time, we're taking up to $74 billion a year from the bottom of the economy in remittance fees. So why not just get rid of the remittance fees and not have to give as much in foreign aid? I like to help these people in these third world countries to become self-sufficient, to come out of poverty, to get clean water, have better sanitation, less, diseases. And to do that, you have to help do innovations. And I think Bitcoin is that innovation that allows us to do it. So that's why remittance for me is so important, because I can very quickly, immediately touch off billions of people and enhance their lives.
That's a very powerful message. I think the remittance industry, unfortunately, is probably one of the most exploitative industries in the world. And at the moment, they enjoy profit margins that are, depending on how you look at it, obscene, but simply unsustainable. Because the underlying value of what they do, which is transferring payments across borders, is partly offset by risk of exchange rates and things like that. But part of it is really just the cost of the underlying infrastructure and pure profit and greed. So when you introduce a platform like Bitcoin, where the underlying overhead goes to zero, and you take out some of the greed from that, it's truly a world-changing technology and platform.
Yeah, I think there's an argument that there's you have to pay the toll when you cross a bridge, but then after a while that bridge is being paid for, and you're still charging that high toll fee, and then the poorer you are, the higher the fees. That's the problem I have with remittance. I don't have a problem for anybody to get paid for building the infrastructure to support remittance. MoneyGram, Western Union, all of these guys that are in the remittance business did a great service building that infrastructure. What I have a problem is for them to continue to charge these higher fees after that remittance platform has been bought and paid for 1,000 times over. The other thing is, Bitcoin doesn't have any cost in transmitting the money, so I think businesses should always be disrupted. I believe in disrupting my own businesses. So I think there's a better option, and I think MoneyGram and Western Union need to adapt to this technology and embrace it instead of fighting it, instead of sitting on the sideline not doing anything about it. They should be part of the solution. And we reached out to them, actually. We want to be partners with them. We want to work together to reduce these fees to the unbanked. But that's up to them, not us.
Yes, and the unbanked are the vast majority of the immigrant and itinerant workers who depend on remittances to feed not just a couple of members of family, but extended families that support entire communities and entire developing economies back home.
Yeah, it's 53% of the world population is not serviced by financial institutions. It's according to World Bank. That's about 2.5 billion people of those are considered in poverty. They make less than $2 a day. In India alone, we have 700 million people that make less than $2 a day. So they get a lot of money from their family, friends from overseas, and not a lot of money, but for them it will be a lot of money. And for them to pay these high fees is not right. Okay, so I think we can do better. And we have to do it in stages. So at ZipZap, we are building the cash in and the cash out. So the customer puts the cash in, and the recipient gets the cash out. But they never know that we're using Bitcoin in the middle. And then eventually, in the developed countries, you could have somebody using their mobile wallet to send money to a developing country. But then on the receiving side, they're still getting cash, but on the sender, they're using a mobile wallet. Yeah. And then the goal is at some point to do what M-Pesa did in Kenya, which is mobile-to-mobile transfer, where there's no cost. You have your phone, you have your Bitcoin wallet on your phone, and you send it to your family that has a Bitcoin wallet on the other end. But I'm pragmatic. I know that's not going to happen right away. It took a long time for M-Pesa to do it, and they had full support of the government and everybody else, the infrastructure from phone companies. So it's going to take time, but in the meanwhile, let's do the cash in and the cash out, and let's slowly adapt to this utopia of having, mobile to mobile, no cost. That's my goal. I want to disrupt my own business where I won't charge any fees for transferring remittance. And when I achieve that goal, then I think the work is done. We can make money other ways. We don't have to make it by charging fees.
Especially from the poorest people in the world.
Exactly, yeah.
I have a feeling I know why you're not going to get much cooperation and partnership from some of these companies, and the simple reason is that their entire business model is based on profit margins that even if they try to co-opt and adopt Bitcoin are not sustainable. And so unfortunately, when the cost goes to almost zero, the profit margins have to follow, and these businesses cannot sustain shareholder reports every quarter where they don't deliver 7% profit growth.
Right.
And so they're going to resist.
Yeah, and I agree. I think they need to find a way to explain to the shareholders and explain to the Wall Street that they're going to get disrupted. So either they do it or somebody else is going to do it. So you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The companies that create Dow Jones, there's only one that has remained GE from the original group. Okay, where did U.S. Steel go? Where did all these other dinosaurs go? They didn't adapt. GE adapted, and bought, TV, bought NBC and bought other things and medical devices and aircraft and diversified, and so they exist and they survive and they do well. I think any of these money transfer companies, if they don't adapt and embrace new technologies and innovations, they're going to be extinct. So they need to explain that to their shareholders. It's a tough sell. I agree with that, but they need to start having those kind of conversations. I know Western Union understands Bitcoin very well, and I know that they are monitoring very closely, and will someday step in. I just hope it's not too late for them.
Yeah, I think probably most of the companies that are looking at Bitcoin fail to see Bitcoin as a platform. They see it primarily as a currency, and they also fail to anticipate the speed with which this will develop. I think it's going to take all of us by surprise how fast these things, especially if you are able and successful in bootstrapping remittance flows in certain key areas where they are so needed. There is a dammed up massive money, $500 billion sitting behind a dam of regulation and inefficiency, and you put a little hole in that dam, and it's going to come crashing down.
We're going to put a big crack in that dam, I tell you. This is utilizing, internet came in and changed, e-commerce, whatever. Utilizing Bitcoin, we can change payments. I think payments innovation hasn't been keeping up with the rest of the technology. There haven't been a lot of innovations for the past 50 years in payments. So there's tons of opportunities, and it's very tough. It's the hardest business to really innovate because of regulations and because of all the established players and the logistics of dealing globally. You need a lot of scale. You can't just do a payment option for San Francisco. You got to do it globally. Yeah. So, it's very tough to do. And, and I'm one that doesn't shy away from challenges. So, I'm here in Argentina trying to set up payment centers, knowing all the challenges we have here in terms of getting to remittance and so forth. But it can be done, and it will be done. And we're leveraging the technology for the good. And we're not thinking about whether or not it's going to affect people's pockets, the shareholders and investors. I think our investors understand that we are building value and creating relationships worldwide, and we can make money servicing these customers with other things. Think of it as a premium service, freemium service, where you provide a free service for remittance, but maybe you can charge for other value-added services to make up for your revenues.
I think this is a very positive and morally correct business model, and in finance that's a pretty rare thing. I think disruption could not happen to a more deserving bunch, and at the same time, if you bring these kinds of services, it could not happen to a more deserving group in humanity that have really been neglected, oppressed, and underserved for millennia.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're spending trillions of dollars with security, but we could have really even out the odds and helping equalize the odds for these people in the third world countries, so they're not prone to terrorism. But when people can make money, when they have unemployment rates that are double digits, and they're getting these kind of exuberant remittance fees, so they turn to violence. I think the bigger humanitarian aspect of Bitcoin is that it allows us to help these people get out of poverty, to help them be able to get clean water, sanitation, healthcare, and eventually, get better education. And maybe down the road, they become customers of the West. They want the same things we want for their kids. So why not help them achieve that? The third world countries, the people there have done commerce for thousands of years. We just need to help them in the future do e-commerce, give them the tools. So why not, instead of giving foreign aid that goes to the top of the government, help reduce the fees to the bottom of the economy and reducing the remittance fees? And why not give them the tools that they can succeed in e-commerce and microtransactions down the road? So that's the questions the debate I want to have about Bitcoin is that. I want the press and the politicians and regulators think about how investing in these infrastructures would actually benefit humanity and benefit us in the West. It's like when they didn't tax the internet for e-commerce, it helped it grow and prosper. So they should do the same thing. Let's not create regulations that make it tough on Bitcoin. Let's really invest in Bitcoin. I think government and banks should really invest in Bitcoin to help spread it out, to help these 7 billion people in the world come out of poverty and become customers in the future.
Right. It's one of the slogans on our show at Let's Talk Bitcoin, and we constantly keep repeating, this is all about the other 6 billion.
Yeah.
It's not about Western developed nations. Bitcoin to us is a technological fad. It's interesting. It can lead to some interesting entrepreneurial opportunities. But to the other 6 billion, it's a matter of life and death.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So this has been an inspiring interview. I wish you all success in your mission. And thank you so much, Alan Safahi from ZipZap.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being on our show.
And thank you for the great job you guys are doing in spreading the word. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Take care.
Purse.io is a gift exchange that lets you get Bitcoins at only a 6% premium and with a credit card. How does it work? You purchase items for other Purse.io members from their Amazon wish lists. In return, you get Bitcoins in the amount of the Amazon purchase. The more people participate, the more Bitcoins will be available, so tell your friends. Get exclusive access today at Purse.io.